Hi, everybody. This is Mike, and I have Scott Easton with me here today. Thank you, Scott.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good. Thank you. We're going to talk about the position report that was released today. It's the July position report, the last position report of the 2021 crop year. It's been a volatile year. You know, we've kind of bumped and scraped our way through this crop year, and this last position report is kind of no different than kind of what we've been seeing all year. You know, so shipments for the month were down 26%, and we'd kind of expected shipments weren't going to be good, right? We had that port strike.
I was going to say, let's talk a little bit about what are the reasoning and
and I think
because we'd had a couple, prior to that, we'd had a couple very strong months, correct?
Monsters. I mean, we had been shipping from, in April and May, April, May, and June, we'd had really good shipping numbers, right? Even shipping more than we normally would between October through December.
I would say there was a prevailing thought amongst us here that the shipping problems were starting to ease. We were getting some traction. And then all of a sudden, when the port strike happened, it felt like we went backwards.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously the results showed that.
Yeah, no doubt. And so, it's, we could dive into it just a little bit about kind of where those shipments went. So, the U.S. domestic market was down 19%. Kind of one where we kind of still scratch our head as to why.
Yes. Do you have any reasons you might believe that?
We keep pointing at the retailers, right? We keep saying, maybe the retail price is too high, not reflective of kind of what the general market is today. And maybe we started the crop year out too high with pricing, right? We sold a lot as an industry, between July and October at much higher pricing than you see now. So maybe that's kind of still working its way through the system.
It took them a little while to digest all that high price stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
Along with the consumer, being hit by high inflation, and they probably didn't have the disposable income that they had.
Yep. Slowdown starting to happen. So the U.S. domestic market was down 19% for the month, down 5% for the year. So again, I think as we go into that 2022 crop year, we look at, can we reset a little bit there and start that crop year off at prices where we can start to see a growing consumption.
Right.
I think India was down 46% for the month. And as odd as it sounds, I think that's going to be a good thing. In the month of June, we had a huge shipment to India, one of the biggest we've had ever, actually. And you started to get a feel in India that there may be a little bit of an short-term oversupply there. And, that non-pearl in-shell price had been subdued for a little while because of it. And so I think, we shipped about 400 containers of in-shell to India in the month of July, which is well below kind of expectations. So I'm hoping we see a little bit more response there, more activity on the lead up to this number. We'd been seeing that. So I'm optimistic that we get a little bit more of a buying activity come out of the Indians. They finished the year 3% down.
Okay. Is there any concern there? I know that's been one of the big growth markets.
I think it's a similar story to what's happened in the U.S. domestic market. You started out that in-shell price last year at relatively high prices, right? $3 back to the ranch, $2.90s, things like that. A lot was sold, and then the market crashed. And so I think for a long time, the importers really didn't have maybe the confidence to be able to come in and step in and take longer coverage like maybe they normally would. And maybe you had a little bit of consumption destruction on the retail side of things. It just was a messy start to the season, and I don't think you ever really recovered, It
was in general, just a very messy year in, all aspects of the supply chain, right? I mean, we see it here at the plant when it comes to our vendors, right? Can't get things, lots of inflationary pressures, all the way down to our growers feeling it.
Oh,
correct?
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, farming costs are up, prices are getting hit because we're not getting the consumption. Right. So I think all the way from the ranch all the way through to the buyers, everybody's having problems.
To the consumer, to you and I buying it on the shelf,
sure.
right? You see it. You see it everywhere.
For sure.
So I mean, Europe was down 43% for the month. Right. I mean, that was pretty dramatic. Again, I think you look at that and it looks really bad, but I also think the Europeans have been taking huge shipments.
Right.
Some
of that June and
April through June.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say May. Yes.
And I think that's where you give them a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah.
Let
them digest what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Europe finished the year down 11%.
Okay.
You know, kind of looking forward, you know, I think there's question marks like in the U.S. retail market. I think there's question marks as to how the European retail is going to play out. It sounds like there's still quite a bit of demand or buying that needs to be done in the European retail space. But with inflation and currency and war going on in Europe, I think it's all, you know, kind of another big question mark as to how we see that.
And we are going into the year with a clean slate, right? You're starting with a low price for the buyers. And typically that will show a reaction of lots of consumption. And like you said earlier, to your point, maybe the reason we didn't get the consumption on those lower prices at the end of the year was because they still had to digest the high prices.
Right.
So let's hope that even though we're taking our medicine, so to speak, it will create that consumption growth that we've always saw with low prices before.
And I think your consumption does better with this gradual, steady price rather than volatility.
Sure.
Right. And so
everybody in the chain has the ability to take a product in, make something out of it, and then move it on to the consumers.
And feel confident that they can buy it today and not lose money on it tomorrow. You know?
Yes.
And so we just need the general market level to be a little higher so that people on the ranch can also be making money in the process, right?
Got it.
So the Middle East for the month was up 3%, kind of a little bit shocker. You know, didn't really see that. I thought most things would be down. Most destinations would be down. Year to date, the Middle East is down 2%. We are seeing more buying interest from the Middle East come in. You are, again, at lower levels. The Middle East is a trading market predominantly. So if and opportunistic. So I think if you see, okay, you know, you're at a low price and maybe you see some rising prices in the future, then you'll get them to play. So you're starting to see a little bit of signs of that. You know, China was up 100% in the month of July. So the best performance we'd seen, you know, anywhere, and down 22% for the year. China has been active as of late, you know, kind of getting in ahead of the Indians, I would say, on that non-Paralian show, and they've been chasing it a little bit. So I think that's been a good sign as well.
Okay.
So that kind of wraps up your 2021 crop. Your shipments year to date were down 9%. And again, I think heading into the 2022 year, like we keep saying, you're at a clean slate. You're at a much lower price than you started last year. And, you know, should be hopefully just a gradual increase from here.
One thing I noticed on the report that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and I want you to maybe try to expand on that thought a little bit, is the unsold inventory going into the year. I think that could be something that we definitely should highlight.
Yeah. So uncommitted inventory, you know, is 94% higher than it was this time last year.
Right.
I think most of that is held in the kind of the call side of the house. You know, and you see it reflective in the market price. There is a discount for old crop relative to the new crop. So we are incentivizing the buyers to come in and buy our 21 crop now.
Right.
And it's just about, I think, getting the liquidity, getting enough buyers into the market to start to flush it out. We do have the seller support here, right?
Yes.
I mean, when we do make sales, you know, we're transacting,
right?
And we are moving it out.
Got it.
I think until you address this uncommitted inventory, you'll probably have a ceiling on pricing.
Right.
You know, you gotta flush this stuff out of here now.
Got it.
So
that's a pretty good summary of the report itself.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the supply coming in now? What we're hearing, you know, just some really basic stuff. It's very early, and we always say let's not overreact to the early news.
Yeah.
However, I do think there's some significant news coming in you might want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely hearing the down yields, lower yields compared to last year. We have a few fields that we've completed receiving down anywhere from 25 to 60%. Some of this stuff is water stress. Some of it's on the verge of being pushed out, a little bit older. But you know, like one field, one of Russell's fields, it's one of the ones that we just finished receiving. It's on a field weight basis up, right? So we received more gross weight, more gross pounds in from the field, but we think the kernel size is going to be smaller. Maybe then kind of saying, maybe it's not going to actually be up. Maybe it'll actually be flat to slightly down.
Gotcha.
You know,
Yeah, it does look like there were some areas that are possibly hit by frost a little harder
Right.
than people thought. We've been talking to various people in the industry that say the north is going to be very light.
Yeah.
It does look like on the west side of the valley here, Fresno County, there was some frost damage. We've heard some pretty low yields coming in there, but once again, early stuff.
Yeah.
Hard to make a determination, but once again, I would think kernel size is something that we've continued to hear is going to be on the smaller side, even in good areas such as Fresno
Right.
Irrigation, where my own ranch is at. I was looking at it, and it looks much smaller than I would normally get. And there was no water shortages.
Right.
There was nothing going on there. So maybe just a Mother Nature
I
thing
think
on
to
the
that
side of kernels.
frost thing, right? We didn't really expect it to be as dramatic on that west side of Fresno.
Right.
Right. And you're kind of really hearing that now. I mean, I was talking to Jerry earlier this morning, and he said one of the growers that he deals with was like, I'm going to be down 40%. And it looked much better in the tree. And there was no water issue with the
Right.
with the ranch at all. And he's attributing that to the frost. So
Yeah. So maybe there was more damage than we originally thought
Yeah.
in our area. Once again, too early to tell.
Right.
Don't want to over dramatize the results quite yet, but we definitely want to put it on the radar that the early results do not look favorable
Yeah.
for as far as crop size goes.
And so as time progresses, right, every month that we do these, we'll start to have more updates on the crop and
All right, and hopefully provide a lot more transparency to
and
what we're
clarity
seeing.
of what's happening. Yeah,
For sure.
cool. You got anything else, Scott?
I don't.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys very much, and that is the end of the 2021 crop year and on to 2022. Thanks, Scott.
Take it easy, Mike.